Welcome everyone to my Ableton Live for Beginners series. I'm going to be going over a PowerPoint presentation alongside of Ableton to explain some basic concepts for beginners, what different buttons do, what different tracks and clips do if you click on them, and how to get different sounds working and arranged properly. I'll put a link to the PowerPoint at the bottom of the video. Check that out if you want to follow along. Otherwise, I'm going to have it up on my screen the entire time. When you save something that you've been working on in Ableton Live, you save it as a .als file. I'll show you where mine are. Mine are in my Dropbox. Here's an example of one. Here's a folder for house shoes. And in this folder is the ALS file right here, along with my samples folder, which hold all of my samples and my Ableton project information. The basic musical building block is called a clip. Each one of these are a clip. If you need help in Ableton, if you're just starting out, you can open up this help window down here, and if you mouse over something, it shows you what it is. So these are clips. This is a clip slot, and this is a clip. To activate a clip, you just click this little button right down here. To activate a row of clips, you click over here. And what you're doing there is launching a scene, but we'll get into that later. Ableton has two environments for clips, which are Session and Arrangement View, and you can use the Tab key to toggle between them. So now I'm in Ableton, clicking Tab, this is Arrangement View, and then I click Tab, and now I'm in Session View. Alright, the browser holds your musical assets. If you go over here, this is Show and Hide Browser. It's set up into categories and places. Categories is where your instruments and samples and sounds and clips and Max for Live and MIDI effects, audio effects are all held. Places are places on your computer, like external packs that you have to download separately from the Ableton website or other places. Your own personal user library or any other folder on your computer. You can add folders right here. Tracks host clips and manages the flow of signals. So what they are, each one of these are a different track. So this audio track right here is a drum rack. So when I click this, oops, I can solo this, so I only hear this. And if I play this, it's playing just the drum track. Session and arrangement share the same tracks. Over here you can see invisible, best drums, reverse, audio, audio, contact. If I tab over to arrangement view, in the same order you see invisible, best drums, reverse, audio, audio, contact, along with the others. A track can only play one clip at a time. So if I'm playing this drum clip, if I want to play the next one, the first one has to stop. Even if it's the same thing, it still has to move to the next clip. You cannot play multiple clips at the same time in the same track. The control bar along the top of the screen handles the transport controls and more. I'll briefly go over what these do. This is the tap tempo. This is your tempo. So you can click and you can change the tempo. So if you want to have your own, if you have a beat in your head or a certain pace of the song in your head, you can click to that pace and your song will adjust to that pace. I can speed it up by clicking it and dragging. You get the idea. As well as this is a slight nudge tempo down, nudge tempo up to slightly slower and quicken the pace of the tempo. This is your time signature. This is the metronome. This is the global quantization. I'll get more into detail about that later. You have the start, stop, record, and MIDI arrangement overdub. So I can start and stop. This is the arrangement record. So it's going to record over what I have in arrangement view. While this is the session record. So this is session view. So this is a record if you want to record in this view. And this is for arrangement. And my startup disk is almost full. I'll skip some of this for now, and I'll go over to the very end, the draw mode. You can also do this by clicking B on your keyboard. This button allows you to turn on and off the pencil tool. And what that does is allow you to draw in notes and automation. So instead of double clicking, if I just have the mouse, I can click B or click the pencil tool and it'll show up and disappear with only one click. This next button is for the computer MIDI keyboard, allowing me to push the buttons on my keyboard to play notes or to trigger certain sounds. So let me see, this is a bass instrument, or it's supposed to be. And this is just me clicking notes on the keyboard. And lastly, we have key mapping and MIDI mapping, which I'll again go over later. You click this to map any of these parameters to a button on your keyboard, as well as clicking any of these parameters and mapping it to any MIDI device. And these last few are your CPU usage, hard disk overload indicator, and the MIDI track in and out indicator, letting you know when MIDI is coming in and out of Ableton. The detail view along the bottom of the screen shows info, clip, and device views. So down here, I can access this on and off, open and close, by clicking these arrow buttons. So at the bottom, if I select this bass instrument, I'm accessing the clip overview over here versus the device view selector over here, which allows me to see what's going into this sound. So I have an operator, our bass, EQ8, and a compressor. You can also toggle between these by clicking Shift Tab, while just normal tab, again, switches between arrangement and session view. Lessons can be viewed with the right sidebar with Help View. So if you go over here, move your mouse, I might be cutting off a little bit. Move your mouse over here. If you go all the way to the end, it lets you move the size of the window. But if you go a little bit before that, you can open and close this Ableton Live 9 Lessons and Help View. Various buttons allow you to show and hide interface elements. I went over that briefly just a minute ago by clicking these little arrow buttons. If you need more room on your screen, just put something down. And at the same time, you can make it huge. You can make it take up your entire screen and have it go up and down with this. I usually like it much smaller though. Return knobs to their default positions by selecting them and typing delete or clicking the triangle. So here I can adjust the pan left and right. And since this is selected, you'll see the little arrows on the corners of it. If I click delete, it goes back to the default position. Likewise, if I have it panned, I can select this arrow at the top, click once, and it returns it to the default position. Use Shift and Command for group selecting. So if I hold down the Command key, which is the Apple button, I can click and select several tracks. Also, if I select a track, hold down the Shift key, and then select a later track, farther down, it'll select all of the tracks in between. Use context menus to access a list of commands from right-clicking on an object. So you can right-click on a lot of this and access some menus. I can disable the send, disable all sends, show automation. etc. Cut, copy, duplicate, delete, rename, freeze, crop, etc. Change the color. Now let's talk about some specifics of session view. Each cell is called a clip slot. So each of these are a clip slot and they hold clips. There are several ways to start and stop a clip from playing. As I said, you can click an individual clip to have it play, or click over here to have the whole scene play, which will start the clip, but it will start all the other clips as well in that scene. If you want to stop a clip from playing, you can either select an empty clip slot or click down here to stop it from playing. Or if you want everything to stop playing, you can click the Stop All Clips button, which will stop everything from playing. And a column is a track and a row is a scene. So each of these are tracks and each of these over here are scenes. Mixing in session view. The mixer has volume pan, track activator, solo, and arm. So if I want to change volume, this is the volume fader. I can also pan it left and right. I can turn the whole track on and off. Why did it stop? Maybe it's not looped. I think it's gonna play once. So let's play something else. If you want to stop a track from being heard, click the track activator button, but it doesn't stop it from playing. You can use this strategically with things like sidechain compression. This invisible track is always off, but because it still plays, it triggers other things in my song. If you have multiple things playing at the same time, you can click the S for the solo button, so you only hear that. And at the bottom is ARM session recording, if you want to record MIDI or audio. There's also some additional features over here to the right. Let me close this down. This is the audio in-out. There's also sends and returns. Right now I have this reverb as a return. So when I turn on the send, it'll send to that reverb track. The drums are also being sent there too. We also have show and hide delay and a crossfade. A delay is for delay compensation if you want something to happen a little earlier or later. And the crossfade assign is if you're DJing, so you can have deck A and deck B, and there's a little crossfader that shows up over here. Monitor in, auto, and off. If you have a sound and you're recording, like my voice right now, which is showing up, if I click ARM session, then my voice will show up. So every time I talk, you see it raising right here. Right now it's off, so we won't hear it. No audio comes through. In, audio will always come through. Test, 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 test. An auto only comes through if the track is armed and no clips are playing.